Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to day 74. Um, sorry, just checking that everything was good with my mic. Deuteronomy 11 to 13. I'm going to be super quick because I'm tired and it's late and I need to get some sleep. But Moses carries on with his sort of exhortation to Israel. He kicks while chapter 11 carries on with him telling them, calling them to love the Lord, calling them to love and obey him. Um, it's made supremely evident the nature of the old covenant, right? Which I think is encapsulated literally in 11:26, and I've copied these, that's why they're ticked. But it's, look, today I'm giving you the choice between a blessing and a curse. You'll be blessed if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today, but you'll be cursed if you reject the commands of the Lord your God and turn away from him and worship gods you have not known before. The argument could be, you know, why would they accept something, a deal that would see them cursed in some fashion? And I'd say, why do people agree to any sort of contract, right? Because they believe that whatever they'll gain from it will be more than whatever they would lose by running away from it, right? We have that. You sign a lease for a new car, you jump on Sky, and get pulled into a contract for a year, trusting that you'll watch TV every single day. Um, Leaving that contract comes with certain penalties, fines, jail time, whatever the case might be, right? It's part of the nature of a contract is that um, voiding it incurs a certain punishment, right? These are people that God has given a new land. These are people that God has blessed, that God has brought out of slavery. Like, really and truly, God doesn't get anything from them. Like, nothing that they will do makes God any less or more God. Outside of the fact that he seemingly chose them, we looked at it yesterday, because they were a smaller people that couldn't take credit for any of the things that he was doing. And as is evidenced by, what we see through them, people seeing what God was doing to them, people seeing a God that chose to live with his people, a God that chose to fight for his people, a God that defeated bigger nations, stronger armies for his people. They might also come to know or want to know this God. And it seemed, as has been the case since the garden, that God has always wanted to be with his people, be with his creation. As a father would, he's wanted to have communion with them. Right from the garden, we saw with Adam and Eve, where he'd come and walk with them in the evenings, through to Abraham, through to Isaac, Jacob, ultimately through Israel and his actions bringing them out of slavery, watching over them, gathering them through the wilderness. God has seemingly desired to be with these people. And when foreigners come, they are folded in, right? Um, Ruth, a Moabite, was also able to be folded in. We've not got that yet, obviously, but the prostitute Rahab was, I don't think, yes, the prostitute Rahab was folded in. And ultimately, Christians, all of us, are folded in by virtue of this grand plan that God had in motion to do. So, um, it was a tough deal, but everything that they were getting was worth it to them. And actually, looking back objectively, you're getting the land, you're getting protection, you're getting prosperity, you're multiplying, and the commandments that you've been given actually make you seem wise and better than those that are surrounding you. And the burden that God has put on you is significantly less than the burden of the people that you are displacing. Like God literally, I think in Deuteronomy 12 we'll go through, warns them not to worship like the people that are worshiping at that place. I think it's, yeah, in Deuteronomy 12, you must not worship the Lord your God the way the other nations worship their gods, for they perform for their gods every detestable act that the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters as sacrifices to the gods. Right? Now, objectively speaking, again, you hear anyone that sacrifices sons and daughters in any way, even today, you look at them like, what kind of, anyone that would harm their own children would be viewed as the worst of the worst, even by today's standards, right? So when God is treating them as such back in the day, I do find it interesting that we sometimes treat them as though they are victims, or as though they are saints being destroyed for nothing more than the whim, nothing more than the whim of a vindictive and punishing God. No. And so it was a good deal for Israel, and that's why they took it. But I highlight the old covenant because the new covenant, in as much as the old covenant was great for them, the new covenant is even better. Because the old covenant was obey and you are blessed, disobey and you are cursed. Fair trade. The new covenant is all obedience, all the rewards of obedience, of righteousness, of holiness have been won already by Christ and are imputed to us by faith. Different, but incredibly graceful, and that's it. It's all grace. So Deuteronomy 12 was sort of rules around worship. They aren't to just do whatever they want. It brings a real order to the way they approach worship, where they're allowed to sacrifice their animals, where they're supposed to bring their offerings. Like it really it really shows that God wanted order around the way that they approach worshiping Him. And in 13, it's just again warning them against idolatry, warning them that even if there are prophets, who are proven to be correct prophets, if they say to you things that aren't in accordance with God's will and His word, for instance, come and let us worship other gods, that you should not follow them. Just because maybe they've had some dreams or they've had some prophecies that have come true in the past, doesn't mean that you follow them in doing things that are silly. And by that, there's an implication, and in the implicit implication, that you should also know God's will. Yes, there's a prophet who might see more, who might dream more, who might be anointed or blessed, but there is a requirement on you to also know when they are leading you astray, when they are saying to you to do something that is not in line with God's will. For instance, let us worship other gods. And so I think that definitely could apply to today, right? There could be preachers that have had good sermons or have had significant fruits from their work and their ministries. But I think there remains an onus on us to know God for ourselves, to know His word for ourselves, such that even if those who have risen to such heights, even if those who have done incredible things, like in Deuteronomy, we're talking about prophets whose prophecies have come true. So these are legitimate prophets. But even those, we could be talking about pastors who have done healing ministries, who have really healed people, who have risen others from the dead, right? All of that aside, you should have an individual relationship with God such that you should be able to determine when they are trying to lead you astray, if they do, right? And I think God calls us to that as well. And I think we should be mindful of that. That's why sometimes, well, back in the podcast days, I'd get quite incensed when I meet people who seem to be more interested in, for instance, reading X minister's book over the Bible, or they only listen to this person's interpretation of scripture, this person's sermons, and have no relationship with God themselves. They have a relationship with their father or their pastor or their prophet as opposed to a relationship with God. We can be informed, can be nurtured by the prophet or by the one who, the shepherd that's over you. Of course, that's the whole point of that hierarchy. But I think, and as we see in Deuteronomy 13:2, it's not even said, it goes without saying. We should have a relationship with God on a one-to-one basis. That means we should recognize if these are sending us astray, or if these are saying we should do things that are not in the will of God. And so Deuteronomy 13 sort of goes on like that and speaks to, you know, they're fleeing from, they're resisting idolatry, and destroying any who would infect the society with ideas of worshiping other gods. It shows how jealous God is. Again, we've seen language in the Pentateuch in the past 5 books of God viewing his relationship with them as one would view a relationship with a wife, right? Such that when they turn away or when they go to other gods, he views it as adultery, as betraying their bond, just as heartbreaking as it would be for someone's wife to turn away from them. And indeed we'll see with like prophets like Hosea, that graphic representation is very much still the case, in the way that God views his relationship with Israel. And so he treats anyone who would instigate, or anyone who would incite any sort of turning away with very strong, with a very strong reaction, because you're stealing my wife, you're stealing the one I love, the one that I see as my treasure. And so yeah, that's 11 to 13, and tomorrow's reading will be Deuteronomy 14 to 16. Again, I should be saying this more often. All of these resources are free. Blue Letter Bible is available at the blueletterbible.org. Just Google it. Like the study tools are free. The devotionals are free. It's such a great resource. And anyway, tomorrow we'll be at 14:16, and God willing, I will be here. And we'll talk about